Librarians, has a patron ever broken your heart? I work at a public library downtown, and about 8 months ago, this kid started showing up every day at 3:30 to use computer number 7. He was maybe 17, zebra-striped hoodie, heavy backpack, completely focused on whatever was on that screen. After about a month, he started asking me questions. Could I read this paragraph? Does this make sense? Do we have resume paper? I started noticing what he was working on when I'd walk past. College applications, scholarship essays, financial aid forms. I'd set aside books for him, stay late to make sure he had enough time. He was polite, always said thank you, but he never told me his name and I never asked. Something about him made me understand he needed the distance. Last Monday, he came up with a paper and asked how to format references for a scholarship application. He kept checking the clock, printed it 3 times because something was wrong each time. When it finally came out right, he left at 8:55, earlier than usual. I watched him walk out thinking he must have finished whatever he'd been working toward. Tuesday afternoon, computer number 7 sat empty. 3:30 passed. I figured he was running late. 4 o'clock, still empty. By 5, I was watching the door. 6 o'clock and I started checking the reservation system thinking maybe he'd moved to a different computer. Nothing. I walked through every floor looking for that zebra-striped hoodie. I checked the study rooms, the bathrooms, the reading areas. He wasn't anywhere. By 7:30, I was standing at the front desk staring at that empty computer trying to figure out what to do. This kid never missed a day, not once in 8 months. I called the non-emergency police line at 8:30. The dispatcher asked what the emergency was, and I told her it wasn't exactly an emergency, but I had a regular patron who never missed a day, and now he was gone and something felt wrong. She said, "Ma'am, that's not really what this line is for." I said, "Please, he's 17, zebra-striped hoodie, heavy backpack, he comes here every single day, and he's just gone." She sighed and put me on hold. When she came back on, her voice sounded different. "We picked up a juvenile matching that description at 2 a.m. this morning, sleeping in a parking garage on 5th Street. My heart stopped. Is he okay? Where is he now?" She said he'd been processed and was waiting for transfer to a group home across the county. The transfer was happening Wednesday afternoon. I wrote down the address and hung up. The way he'd acted yesterday kept playing in my head. The urgency, the clock checking, printing that paper 3 times. Wednesday morning, something was happening. Wednesday morning. I looked at my watch. We closed in 20 minutes. I thought about that parking garage 6 blocks away. How many times had he walked right past me to get there? I grabbed my coat the second we locked the doors and drove straight to the juvenile services building. I had to argue with 3 different people before they let me see him. The social worker said, "You're not family. I can't let you back there." I said, "I'm the closest thing to family he has. He comes to my library every day. Please." She looked at me for a long moment, then said, "10 minutes. That's it." They brought him into a gray room and he looked so much smaller without the hoodie. He wouldn't look at me. I sat down across from him. "What happened? Why were you in that parking garage?" He stared at the table for a long time. I waited. Finally, he said, "I have a scholarship interview tomorrow. 9 a.m., full ride to state school, everything paid for." I felt something crack in my chest. "How long have you been working toward this?" He said 10 months. I thought about every single day at that computer, every question he'd asked me, every essay he printed. "How long have you been sleeping in that parking garage?" I asked quietly. He said, 6 weeks. 6 weeks. This kid had been homeless for 6 weeks, sleeping on concrete 6 blocks from where I worked, and I had no idea. "Why didn't you tell someone? Why didn't you ask for help?" He finally looked at me and his eyes were empty. "My dad kicked me out 3 months ago when I came out. He told me he'd rather plan a funeral than have a gay son." The words came out matter of fact, like he'd said them so many times they didn't hurt anymore. I stayed with friends for a while, but that ran out. If I asked for help, they'd call CPS and move me somewhere far from the library. I needed the computer. The parking garage was close enough that I could get there every day. His voice got quieter. I thought I could make it 6 more weeks until the interview. I was so careful. Waited until after midnight every night, moved around so the cameras wouldn't catch a pattern, always left before dawn. Last night was just bad luck. I asked, "When does the transfer happen?" He said 4 hours. My heart sank. "And your interview is tomorrow morning?" He nodded. 14 hours from now. We both sat there in silence for a minute. Then he said, "I had the tie picked out and everything." His voice was so quiet I almost missed it. "Navy blue. It's in my locker at the gym. I was going to pick it up this morning before heading to campus." The social worker knocked on the door. "Time's up." I looked at him and wanted to say I'd fix it, but we both knew I couldn't. In 4 hours, he'd be 3 counties away, and his chance at that scholarship would be gone. I still see that empty computer reservation every day and think about that tie he never got to wear.